Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. Modern Masters 2015 is out and we had the chance to play with it extensively this past weekend. In this video, we're going to go over some of the best commons and uncommons in each color for the purposes of drafting. This is particularly useful when you get an absolutely awful rare that you don't snap take. Discussing examples of this are Inexorable Tide and Surgical Extraction, just to name a few. Also, we're going to try to avoid synergy-specific cards, as in cards that are only bonkers when you're building a themed deck. This video is about the neutral cards that are always good no matter what you're playing. With that said, let's dive right into the white cards. Beginning with white uncommons, it only makes sense to start with Oblivion Ring. This card has always been insane in limited formats, and this one's no different. 3 mana to basically exile anything you hate from the game. Removal is removal, and Oblivion Ring is king of removal in white. Easily first pickable above a lot of rares in this set, a lot of them. The second white uncommon I want to mention is Spectral Procession. Putting creatures onto the battlefield is valuable. 3 of them at once that also fly, real good. Synergy with the Spirit deck, even better. If you don't have that specific synergy though, it doesn't really matter. Procession creates 3 flyers for usually 3 or 4 mana. It's just way too good to ignore. It's definitely a top pick. As far as universally good commons go, I think everyone is in unanimous agreement. Arrest is great. Another piece is pseudo-removal, assuming your opponent has nothing cheeky going on. Regardless, it forces your opponent to spend an extra card dealing with this or dealing with the consequences, namely not having a useful creature. Arrest wins games, just saying. The only other white common I want to mention is another slam dunk that I'm pretty sure you all know is amazing by now. Sunlance is the white lightning bolt for non-white creatures. This is sorcery speed and it's color specific, but I mean it's 3 damage for 1 white mana. Finding a non-white creature shouldn't be that difficult, instantly playable and worthy of an early pick. Moving on to blue, Modern Masters 2015 brought back one of my absolute favorite flyers for limited. Air Servant is fantastic at the uncommon level. It's a huge flying beater, which is always great in the format. It also deals with opposing flyers really well turn after turn. Since your opponent can't count on their blockers to deal with the Servant, they'll need a piece of removal. If they don't have it, they'll probably lose. Servant is definitely first pick material, easily. Blue has a lot of strong neutral uncommons, but for me it gets no better than Muldrifter. 5 mana for a 2/2 flyer is pretty but that enter the battlefield ability is absolutely fantastic. The card advantage is real. Assuming you can't play the elemental itself, evoking it still gives you 2 cards for 3 mana. Could be worse. Versatile and powerful, I will draft Muldrifter every time. I pick it before a lot of rares. Okay, most rares. I might have a problem. Since we're high on the evoke bandwagon, let's talk about Aethersnipe, my favorite common in the set easily. Just like Muldrifter, the elemental has a great ability and versatility along with it. You either pay 6 for a tempo gain and a 4/4 beater, or you pay 3 and really upset your opponent who just tapped out to play their, I don't know, anything. More times than you think, this will function as a pseudo time walk. I am not exaggerating. Aethersnipe is the bee's knees. You all really need to understand how much I value unsummon effects. Repeal is my next pick for best blue common. Super versatile, allowing you to return any target non-land permanent, and its scale is based on what you need, plus you draw a card. Who doesn't love drawing cards? Mono red aggro players, that's who. Yeah, shots fired. Pew! Black is a little less flashy than some of the other colors, but there's plenty of goodness here, just not really in the uncommon slot. You're basically looking at 2 cards to get you there at this rarity level. Dismember and Spread the Sickness. Dismember is way better for the record, but both of them do their jobs well. I'm not overly excited about playing a 5 mana sorcery removal spell, but it is a removal spell, and we love removal spells. A lot. Anyways, I feel like these 2 uncommons are just leagues above the rest in the color. When we get to commons, things get a lot deeper. Nameless Inversion is fantastic and the perfect place to start. 2 mana for 3 damage is basically what you're looking at. Also, dodge is indestructible, which is just a cool thing that doesn't matter a whole lot. Anyways, 3 damage at instant speed for 2 mana. It's pretty red, but pretty awesome. I'm confident it's the best black common in this set for drafting. Grim Affliction is my next pick. 3 mana for a -1/-1 counter that turns into a -2/-2 counter thanks to Proliferate. Not the most efficient removal, but it is removal and it's instant speed. At least it doesn't have to take up your own turn. Plus they are counters, not just temporary hindrances. Even if you don't kill the target, you do stem some bleeding, which could be the difference between life and death. Red uncommons are not good for draft. They aren't. Lightning Bolt is amazing. It's Lightning Bolt. I shouldn't have to explain this to you. Next to Lightning Bolt, though, I guess Spite Bellows, yeah. 6 mana for a 6/1 that thwacks a creature in the face when it leaves the battlefield. Nice removal, especially thanks to the evoke cost. 3 mana for 6 damage, not so bad. Removal is removal, even if it's super weird. Red commons are pretty easy to figure out. Burst Lightning is first and only. Shock with upside, can't go wrong here. 1 mana, 2 damage with the potential for a bunch more if you have the mana. Scales nicely into the mid-game for you, which is versatile and convenient. First pickable common right here. Besides that, there's really nothing else I want to mention. There are plenty of fine red commons, but none of them really stand out the way Burst Lightning does, you know? No first pick me kind of power going on. Green uncommons. Never thought I'd be so happy to see green. Palaka Worm is an absolute boss and a total bomb worth first picking. 7 mana is a ton, but it's a 7/7. It gains you 7 life, so when you drop the shields you have a nice buffer, and it draws a card when it dies, replacing itself. I'll take this all day and you should too. It just generates so much value, it's hard to ignore. I don't even like giant green creatures all that much, but Palaka Worm, you're the Bant giant worm I always wanted, just in 1 color instead of 3. There are a lot of good green uncommons, but Bestial Menace is easily my second pick, hands down. 5 mana for 3 creatures, a 1/1 and a 2/2 on turn 5 is but both of those and a 3/3 coming in at the same time, talk about board presence. Remember Tristani Summoner? The same idea applies. 1 card creates multiple creatures and improves your board position. You can't say no to this. Definitely the next best uncommon as far as I'm concerned. You will not convince me otherwise. As good as the green uncommons are, the green commons are that bad. I dislike the vast majority of the entire card pool. Kozilek's Predator is the only one that I can get behind. 4 mana for a 3/3 is okay, but getting those 2 Eldrazi spawn tokens is really nice for ramp purposes. Also chump blocking if you need it. Just puts more stuff on the board, which can hurt most of the time. Other than the Predator though, I just really do not like the commons in green. Nothing here I'd first pick ever. Modern Masters 2015 brought a lot of great reprints for the limited format, but more importantly, these reprints really brought the colors back to their roots. White creates flying tokens and uses enchantments to annoy their opponents. Blue counters spells, unsummons, and draws cards. Black kills stuff, a lot of stuff, all the time. Red burns things to death. The set brought back both Lightning Bolt and Burst Lightning. If that isn't a sign, I don't know what is. And green decided to do what they always do, print giant dudes and other smaller dudes to help get the big guys out. We're back to our origin stories, people. Which color best represents you? I hope you enjoyed this Modern Masters 2015 draft guide. If you have any questions, concerns, anything at all, leave it below. Also, what were some of your standout cards this weekend when you played Modern Masters Limited? I'd love to hear stories. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.